What's up, everybody? My name is Drew Flitton.
And I'm Cory Janibagian.
And this is Untap
Upkeep.
Drink.
Beer up.
What's up, everybody? We are going rogue.
Yeah, as you might have heard in the intro, we don't have our boy Garion.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit weird because he's actually the audio engineer for our podcast. So he's the one who normally kind of controls the environment and lets us know what's going on. And right now, we're just kind of freeballing it.
Yeah, and so we had to redo that intro like 10 times because
he's the first person to talk.
He usually sets it up. So we're just trying to figure out his cues and stuff and where we fit in.
Regardless, though, we do have an interesting episode planned out today. We're talking about pet peeves and courtesy at the table.
Yeah. So I bet everybody has different pet peeves and different ways to be courteous, but these are just some of ours. And I wouldn't take anything too personally in this. It's just our opinions and what kind of irks us. And we urge everybody not to get too mad when you're playing Magic because it's not fun for everybody. But sometimes things are just like, ooh.
Yeah, a lot of these are like the little things that just like irk you and just like, it's like, oh, I want to fix that for you.
Like, oh.
Yeah. So before we get into that, let's jump into these brews. Cory, what do you got going on over there?
So I've got the Isolation Ale from Odell's Brewing Company.
Nice Colorado.
Oh, yeah, this can is beautiful. It's 6.1% ABV and 42 IBUs. It smells very, very sweet, but it's got a beautiful amber color, like you'd expect from an ale.
Like I say, like you expect from an ale. Like there's dark ales.
No.
If it's not,
this is. Ooh.
Yeah, your face just lit up.
This is super sweet.
Like if we were on video right now, everyone would have just seen like Cory go from like intrigued at the smell to just like a very happy boy.
There's a lot of different notes happening in this. Like you have your same ale notes and flavors that you'd expect, but it's a lot sweeter in like a different way.
Yeah, almost has like that Belgian sweetness, if that makes sense, but like accentuated.
Yeah, it's got the Belgian sweet, but not like the Belgian funkiness to it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
It's almost fruity.
Yeah.
But it's not quite.
Yeah,
it has that kind of like
really hard
fructose-esque kind of sugar flavor.
Yeah, it's super sweet, but super smooth. It's not like one of those beers that's too sweet that you can't drink a whole thing. It's like
you can down that
very
in a hurry.
Balanced ale.
Yeah, I mean that's what did you say it was
6.1% and then 42 IBUs. I'm not getting any bitterness.
Yeah, I mean like there's kind of that weird kind of ale, like generic ale bitterness that kind of lingers on the tongue. But aside from that, like that doesn't feel like a 40 IBU.
Yeah, so it says it's a smooth caramel malty ale balanced by a subtle crisp hop finish.
I mean, it definitely is like a nice finish, but I wouldn't say it's like super crisp. It kind of just like fades out on me.
But it's definitely caramel malty. I think that's a good, all that sweetness.
It's delicious. All right, and then I've got the Ghostfish Brewing Company's Kickstep IPA. It's 5.5% ABV and 60 IBUs. So this one literally just drew my attention because of the mountaineering project or whatever.
Yeah, they donate a lot of the proceeds to the mountaineering.
Yeah, so I do appreciate a good like backstory for a beer. And so this one, I was reading the label and I was like, if I read that on the show, we'd be here for 2 minutes. But like, it's definitely one that you should check out if you're interested in it. It's from Seattle, which, I mean, we are a big fan of just the Northwest in general when it comes to beers. And this one is a gluten-free. So get rid of all that, weedy shit that a lot of people, just have a problem with right now.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a gluten-free IPA.
Ooh, on the nose, it is malty and hoppy. Just like two very distinct notes that you can pull out of it. Ooh, wow. It does not taste how it smells to me.
Does it taste like an IPA?
It tastes like the kind of like, oh, no, there it is. I was going to say, it tastes like the malty parts of an IPA that you get without too much of the actual hop flavors. But as soon as I took that second sip, it was like, hey, by the way, this is still an IPA. You still get that hop bitterness to it. It's definitely more of the piney kind of resinous bitterness, less of that kind of like floral flavor that you get out of it.
Yeah, it kind of actually smells like a sour.
Yeah,
but then
almost.
it's very malt forward and then hop, and it's a lot of hop. It's that lingering hop that you'd expect from an IPA.
Yeah, it like takes the isolation ales like hop component to the next level.
Yeah.
While dropping down the actual like malty sweetness.
Yeah, talk about a crisp hop finish.
Yeah, that one.
That one is powerful.
Nails it on
Super
there.
good.
All right, so there's a lot of things in Magic that people don't like, right? Like obviously losing sucks.
Yep.
But it's part of the game, and you kind of need to accept that. And everyone will take their share of losses, and that's part of the game. So we're not going to talk about that any more than I just did.
Yeah, when you sit down in a game, it's 3v1 automatically.
Yeah, a lot of this that we're going to be talking
1v1.
about is going to be for like commander or multiplayer variants, just because you will pick up on your pet peeves more when more people are doing it.
Yeah, and it's just naturally a more casual format, so everyone's just sort of more relaxed and not taking everything as seriously, but then there's still those things that just piss you off.
Yeah. All right, so first little topic here is going to be things people do in the game of Magic rather than just the things that go on while playing Magic.
Yeah.
Because we do have certain things that we'll talk about.
Yeah, we've divided these into different categories.
All right, Cory, why don't you start us off here?
So one of the things we have on here, and these aren't in any particular order. It's not like these are things I hate the most or things that piss me off the most. But the first one we have is just scooping in response.
Yeah, so for this, it's like in Commander especially, we'll see it. It's one of the things that I see at our local shop a lot, which is really frustrating. And so we're not talking about like if you're going to lose the game, somebody's attacking you, and in 1v1, when you're about to die, you scoop. That's totally
just
fine.
to save time, move on to game 2.
But we're talking about when, you still have several turns before you will actually lose the game, where you can still impact the game in a number of different ways.
You might still draw a board wipe and change everything.
Yeah, but instead, you just choose to
Give
step
up,
out and just, nothing I do matter. It's kind of like that poor sport attitude where it's just like, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm not going to win this game, so why should I even bother continuing to play?
Yeah, I think obviously there's sometimes if you get locked out of a game and nobody's playing or having fun, then those are more appropriate to scoop. But
I feel like at those situations, like that's where you need to like draw the line and like vocalize that. And if you're just scooping just because, you're not having fun or something like that, that's also something that needs to be vocalized rather than just like, well, I'm not going to win, so I'm just going to quit.
Yeah, I think most of the time scooping is not okay, especially if you're losing. But I think there's certain instances where it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do. Obviously, this game is over.
Yeah,
save some time.
Talking about like all of
but
this
we're talking
before.
about the ones where it's just like you're
playing a token strategy. Someone throws board wipe, and you're just like, well, I can't do anything anymore. I'm out.
Yeah, or like your commander keeps getting killed. It's like, okay, whatever, you guys. I'm just gonna scoop out of frustration and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and we've all been there, and it sucks being the target. But I think scooping and giving up is just one of the most poor sportsman-like things you can do.
Yeah, it's just it really puts like a negative air on the rest of the game for everyone else. Because like when some people do it, it makes you feel like you're, I don't know, like the play group there has been like bullying that player or something like that.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's just, their deck's not working out the way they wanted it to go, and they're just kind of in a negative mood because of that. And then them scooping is a result of that.
Yeah, and then the very worst way you can do this is if you want to impact the game in like somebody else's favor.
Yeah.
So
say like, was it Decimate or something like that? It needs to have 4 targets.
Yeah.
And so if like you scoop and there's just not a target, then, like, well, that spell doesn't resolve. And
and you impact the rest of the game, even if it's not going for very many turns, but you've changed everything that's going to happen just because you were petty or something.
Yeah. All right. So next one is more like what happens kind of at the earlier stages of the game.
Yeah.
Trying to be apolitical, more or less, right? Like you're trying to...
you're trying not to pick on anybody.
Yeah, you're quote-unquote trying to keep things fair.
Yeah, so we have rolling dice to determine who to attack. So I put this one on, and this pisses me off to no end.
This is one that I used to do a lot. And like, if I'm not like actually making enemies, sometimes I will do it just because it's like, I don't care who I attack. Like, I'm going to make an enemy out of everyone. And usually it's like, well, I've attacked you now. Now I'm only going to attack you. And like, it's kind of just like, well, who's the one that gets the brunt of Drew's attacks today?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I understand definitely where you come from, because when I see other people do it, I'm just like, yeah, I definitely need to cut down on it because it annoys me as well. It's like, just pick a target. Like,
yeah, even if it's like, obviously it's always easiest to attack the person who doesn't have blockers and stuff like that. But if you can't decide, just hitting the best target is always better than randomizing, in my opinion.
Well, it's just, you're going to make enemies in a game.
Exactly.
Right? And so
they're already your enemies.
Yeah, it's better, in my opinion, to attack the board in that you're like, okay, I'm attacking you this turn, now I'm going to attack this person next turn, and go through it that way, than it is to just like, well, unlucky, you're the one who gets the attack.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I've attacked you all 3 times.
Anytime you attack someone, they're going to be mad at you. So, like, pick your battle effectively in a way that allows you to kind of control the situation more. Like, anytime you randomize something like that, if you're just randomly picking an enemy, what happens if they're the one who can strike back hardest?
Yeah. Yeah, I think people might say, oh, since I'm doing it random, it's not me, it's the dice. But you
chose to attack.
Exactly. You can always choose to not attack and just chill. Yeah. And sometimes that's the much better call to do. But people that just roll the dice and it's like, okay, I'm going after you this game. That I think
it's better to like do it where you do it at the beginning and then continually attack that target because you have made an enemy out of it, rather than like every single time you're going to attack, just like, oh, I don't want to piss anyone off, so every single time I'm just going to roll.
Yeah, I'm more okay with that, but at the same time, it's just like you might be attacking the person who's getting land flooded and not doing anything, while instead of going after the threat. Yeah. And so it's like you can be impacting this game to increase your chances to win, but instead you're just doing this thing just to do this thing.
Yeah, it's basically like it'd be like playing a board wipe just to play a board wipe rather than to like actually take care of any threat.
I think that's it. Obviously, it's not like poor sportsmanship or anything. I just think you're not playing to the utmost of your abilities, and it's just lacking on like threat assessment and stuff, which can be hard sometimes. I know that, but leaving it up to chance doesn't help you become a better Magic player.
Yeah, for sure. The next one is one that I think everyone gets frustrated by. And it's one thing that like we allow to a certain extent. I think most people, especially in Commander, like there's a line that, shouldn't be crossed. And we're talking about just take backsies here.
Yep.
Like anytime someone's like, oh, I meant to do this instead of this, like there are legitimate times where, like you're super pumped about playing something, you tap your man, you throw it on the card and you're just like, I was not paying attention.
Damn it.
That's the wrong card. But we're talking about like, maybe you tap all of your lands and you're like, okay, I'm going to play this spell and then this spell. And like, oh, I needed to play that in the opposite order. It's just like, sure, we'll give you this one.
Yeah, or like, I'm meant to play this land. Can I play this one instead?
But
and like
when you abuse like your table's allowance of that it really starts to get frustrating. Or if it like somebody makes a comment and you change your action because of that, then that's really where we start to.
Yeah, table talking is not cool, but I think
table talk is cool in confines of doing table talk, but table talk that changes your play that you take back is where like
I guess there's different levels, but in tournament standings, it's just card laid's card played. I think there's no leeway when it comes to take backsies. Pre-releases are different because everyone's there to have fun, but in a standard or a modern tournament, then it's just like, no, you can't. That's call the judge, be like, don't take that shit.
Yeah.
But I think in EDH, we're definitely more lenient, and depending on your meta and your play group, people can be way more lenient. Like we used to not care, and then we got to care a lot, and I think we're back to not caring as much. So you're like, you can tap that land or you can change out your lands. But if somebody misses a bunch of triggers on their own stuff and then
for sure,
like keeps going with their turn and like passes the turn, and somebody wants to do something on their like before they went to combat, it's like, no, you can't take all that back and do all this stuff that you wanted to do. Everyone has to pay attention and be on their game and just play the game how it's meant to be played and be able to respond to everything that's going. And you can't just willy-nilly take that back and change how you want to play. Like you said, if people are talking, you're just like, oh, I didn't want to actually do that.
Yeah. Another one kind of take backsies is like missing triggers.
Yeah.
Because it's everyone's job at the table to know when triggers are happening, right? And if somebody misses it, you should be reasonable, to an extent. But if it's like something that happened with their upkeep, and they've already gone into combat, like that's a lot that's gone on.
It's the impact that could have had. I think it's too much to take back sometimes.
Yeah, so do remember your own triggers. You are allowed to just
really hard sometimes.
Put something on top of your deck to remind you of that upkeep trigger, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been doing that a lot more.
Yeah, so kind of be mindful of that. It's hard. Everyone misses.
Yeah.
triggers. Like,
Especially when you have 18,000 enchantments, and you're like, all of these are doing weird static effects. It's like, I don't know.
yeah, like my Nekasar deck. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's so many
It's
like
how much do I
upkeep,
take?
draw, step. Like individual draws matter, even though you're drawing so many cards at the same time.
Yeah,
Like,
each draw has different effects. Each discard has different effects. And there's just all sorts of weird triggers.
not
you gotta
Nekasar.
keep track.
Nekasar doesn't care about discards, but in Sean's,
The
Yidris
just wheels.
Yeah. But yeah, so be mindful of those things. Understand that if your playgroup is allowing you to do that, don't abuse that.
Yeah.
Again. Like a lot of this comes down to leniency and you abusing that. If you do abuse it and take advantage of it, understand that a lot of the time these are your friends that you're taking advantage of.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a shitty thing to do.
Yeah, if you go to a game shop, they probably won't let you get away with as much, but
Yeah.
I try to be more cool about it if it's not as impactful of a play.
Yeah. So this next one is definitely, I think, more of a me problem than it is other people. But it's when people tap or just like organize things in a weird way. Like if I can't tell which of your lands
Yeah.
are tapped, that's a problem because that's information that should be open information that you're essentially hiding because of the way you're tapping it. Like I'm not saying that everybody needs to do like the full 90-degree clockwise tap.
Yeah, just make sure it's known what you have tapped and what you don't have tapped, especially with creatures and mana rocks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That might
And-
be off to the side.
Yeah. Have like, yeah, exactly. Organizing your stuff in a way that is like not, I was going to say visually appealing, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that it can be clearly assessed
Yeah.
from anyone's vantage point.
Yeah, and then you can always ask, hey, are you tapped out and stuff like that. But sometimes people will stretch the facts and be like, oh no, I've got this island that was totally tapped. No, it's untapped. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I just tap when the other part is like, I hate when people put their lands in weird places.
Yeah.
Like, and this one is just 100% me, but like when someone has like, say they're in Selesnya and they've got their forest, they've got their plains, and it's all just like mixed and matched.
not sorting stuff.
Yeah, the only time I'm okay with that is if like you organize them for a specific spell. So it's like this is
Yeah,
I
this
need
is 4
2
mana, I need
Yeah,
this.
exactly. I needed 2 white and 2 green for it. So
Yeah, another thing that I don't like is when people put their mana rocks in
Into
with their
the
lands.
lands?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just so confusing, especially if you're trying to blow up artifacts and they hide them down in their lands. It's like, oh no, that's a soul ring down there, right? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. It's like, yeah, bitch, you better put that up front. It's my first target.
settle down. But no, it really is frustrating. Like I do sometimes like sort it that way, and then I feel like I have 3 zones when I'm playing Magic. I've got a zone for my lands. I've got a zone for my artifacts and enchantments that don't interact with combat, and then I've got my creatures, and then things that like augment creatures or interact with combat. So it's like those are my 3 zones: lands, non-combat, combat, and that's just.
It's easy to read. Everyone can see it. And then it's just going along with that. It's like if somebody asks you something, like cards in hand, don't be like shy about it. Just say, I've got 4 cards. Yeah. Or like, this is my graveyard. Do you want to look through it? It's like all of that is legal, open information. You can't hold that like away from anybody.
Yeah, if someone asks you, like, it is your responsibility to answer. Like, that is part of the game, having that information.
Don't like take it personally or anything. It's just people just are trying to figure out what to do.
They're trying to evaluate what
There's
the
a
situation
lot of information that people are trying to assess. So this next one can be hard sometimes because sometimes people just don't know, but it's wrong rules lawyering.
Yeah, so rules lawyering is basically where you're explaining the rules or like you're arguing why your play matters because of the way that the rules are set.
Yeah.
And the reason why this one is one that I wanted on the list was because there are people who have, whether it's in their playgroup, whatever, understood a rule to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And when they do, it may be because they actually haven't read through the rules, right? They've interpreted the card and they're telling you that this is the way it is, even though it's incorrect.
Yeah, and it's nobody's fault. It's just a case of misinformation.
Usually. But
Yeah.
there are definitely people who will try to abuse like more confusing cards to their advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
And-
like old cards and stuff.
Yeah. And this is one that I saw at the shop that pissed me right the fuck off because the guy was definitely just trying to be deceitful to his own advantage. And it's like the other people there didn't know the card and didn't know the rules interactions, so they just would have let it slide. And
Yeah.
It's like as someone who has looked into like all of the rules, literally read through the rule book of Magic, which is not a fun read, but it is interesting to see, how certain things have so many like exceptions and stuff. Like we do have a website called Gatherer. A lot of the weird, confusing cards have their rules in there.
Yeah, it's your best friend.
And so use that resource if somebody's like trying to explain something to you. There's the like judge forums and wikis. Like you can figure out what a rule call should be based on all of those resources. And yes, some of it is difficult to understand. Like even someone who has read through all the rules, who has like looked up all of the forums and like tried to figure out the hardest interactions and weird shit. Like I still have rules interaction. I'm just like, I think it works that way, but I'm 100% looking it up.
I think my worst thing is replacement effects. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, replacement effects, especially in Commander, are really weird because there's some things where it exiles your commander, but unless the commander has been cast from the command zone, it still matters if that exile effect goes away because the commander will come back, right?
Yeah, and I think when in doubt, just ask other people around you. If you have a judge handy, always call a judge.
Yeah, and judges are not there to
they're not
punish
enemies.
you.
Yeah, they're just there for rules clarification. And especially in EDH, it's casual format. Everyone's just there to have fun. You might be playing CDH where you're there to win, but trying to tell somebody the wrong way to play the game doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, you're just going to confuse people, and just misinformation is the enemy of us all.
Seriously.
All right, so this is next subtopic here is things that people do after the game is done or that carry over into the next game.
Yeah, so if you're playing multiple games, some of these things might happen.
And again, this is more directed at multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like the first one is going to be like, yeah, of course, 1v1. Like you're there
exactly,
to compete.
Yeah.
I'm
going to sideboard against you because I know what you have. I'm going to target you.
So the first one that we have on here is just holding a grudge, and because of that, you target a specific person in the next game.
Yeah, so I think the most basic way to see this is like, oh, you won last game, I'm going to go after you this time. It's like, even if you're playing a completely different deck, you like are doing everything different. You have no permanence or your land flooded or anything like that. I'm still going to go after you.
Yeah, and I see that again at shops with people who are like friends in a different play group when I'm playing with them, just like random games. And like one person after the game will switch to a different deck, and the other person picks their deck that they've built to like counter and target that deck.
Yep, that
and
sucks.
It's the petty shit.
Oh yeah,
it's just like
we always talk about petty grudges, and I'm in the mindset that you learn from every game you play, but you don't be like, you played this, so I'm gonna go after you with this, either this hard counter or just I'm gonna throw everything at you, even if you're in last place. But I think a lot of us used to do that a lot and just be like, oh, you got the best deck, I'm gonna just go after you. But it's like you gotta learn who the threat is and pick your battles.
Yeah, just because somebody has the quote unquote best deck doesn't mean that they're
gonna win.
Yeah, like you have to be able to assess games individually.
Yeah,
not just like, oh well, like back in the day, Cory's Marion deck was like the first one that was really upgraded to anything that mattered, and so like it was like, oh, Cory's playing that deck, we better go against it.
Exactly. And that made me not play that deck.
Yeah, it just became an unfun.
It's going to be arch enemy. Like, I might as well play a different deck.
Yeah.
So I think just letting every game be a separate thing, learn your lessons from it, do things differently, maybe watch who's ever won that last game, maybe just watch them more, hold up responses or something like that. But I think if you lost that game, who cares? Move on to the next game. Have fun.
Yeah. The next one you have on the list, I'm kind of interested about. Like, give us the rundown here.
So this one I have is explaining how they would have won after the game. So this is just basically if you win on your turn and the person who's going to go is like, oh, I had all these things. If I'd done this differently, or if I hadn't done that, then I would have won. Or like, if I hadn't let you attack me that one time, then I would have won. And just like all that stuff that it doesn't really matter. It's like, if you say, oh, I was so close to comboing off, or if you hadn't won, I would have won, then it's just like, I think it doesn't help. Like, if we had 5 more turns, then somebody would have won, like, but you didn't. It just, I don't know, I guess that's personal to me. It's like, yeah, if you would have countered every spell I played, then yeah, I wouldn't have won. Like, that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so that's one that like doesn't bother me as much, but that's probably like the same as
it's just me.
My tapping, like annoyance of people tapping shit weird. But yeah, that one, like I definitely am guilty of that one, where it's just like oh man, and just like show you the cards like, oh, so close, this one could have had it. But
Yeah, I think it's different when you're with your friends and you're like, oh, I almost went off if I could have done this thing or if I drew this card. But if people are like gloating, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have deserved that game. You didn't do anything. It's like you just won because you got lucky or like you hit this person.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Like the gloating side of it.
Yeah, I think that's more what I've meant.
Yeah.
It's like
Talking down someone else's
if I
win.
drew my demonic tutor and drew all my best combo pieces, then I would have won. It's like, yeah, no shit, dude. But you didn't. So
Yeah, I can definitely see where like I guess it's like the poor losing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like,
I guess
you
that's a better way.
Shouldn't have won.
Yeah, it's like you didn't
versus-
deserve that game.
Because I think like being like, oh, I was pretty close to going
Like,
off.
I almost did what the deck wanted to do. I guess
like that's to me that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's just like,
that's
oh man,
different.
I kind of want you to play that deck again because I want to see that.
Yeah, I want to see it go off.
But it's kind of like Pixar didn't happen, you know? Like
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
So show me the stuff. If don't have it, then you're just full of shit. And,
Yeah,
like,
or like asking after games, like, oh, how do you win with that? And then you bust out all the pieces, like, oh, okay, that's cool. But if someone's like, oh, if I just held up one more mana, then it's like, it doesn't matter.
yeah. All right. And the last one we have on just the pet peeves around the game is things that people do outside of the game while playing.
Yeah, they're playing, but they're not really playing.
Yeah. First one we had here is just being on phones.
Yeah. And obviously sometimes games are long and you can't help but be on your personal computer that's always at your side and just looking stuff up. But sometimes people are just not paying attention to anything anyone is doing.
Yeah, my biggest pet peeve with this is when they're watching a video.
Yeah.
Because the audio is so like I've got ADHD. Like it's hard enough for me to stay on track with 4 people playing and just like all of like the random stuff that's going on that I'm doing, that like anything that like is a flashing screen or just noise is going to immediately distract me to that. And if it's my turn, that means my turn's taking longer, which is impacting everyone else.
Yeah, it's wasting everybody's
And
time.
then it's incentivizing you to keep doing that because my turn is going on longer.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just super frustrating in that sense. And then it's just we're here as a group playing a game. Like at least give us the time of day to do that.
Yeah.
Like
Have the courtesy.
yeah, if you don't want to be here and playing the game, then we're not going to invite you next time. Like
Yeah. Yeah, it's the worst. It's kind of goes with takes backsies when people, they're on their phone being distracted and then something happens and they're like, oh, no, wait. Let's go back. I had a response to that. It's like,
God, that
no,
okay, that's
you
the
can't
actual
do
fucking
that.
worst.
Yeah.
As hard as it is for me to stay focused and not get distracted, when they want the roll back because they weren't
Exactly,
paying attention. Like I definitely have done it where it's just like I got distracted and missed like a card being played and just like, hold on. Did you play that? Like, because sometimes I'll just like,
where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's
What
just
is
like,
this?
and sometimes I'll miss or like I will visually see that someone's played a card or something like
But
that.
it won't register
And
it.
then, or like they've equipped or something like that.
Yeah, it's like,
and just
God
like, wait,
damn.
when did you put on your boots? And just like, I understand that that's on me, and I'm just like, damn. I wish I was paying attention, But like,
When people do it on purpose and like,
Yeah,
they're
they're
actively
intentionally-
not paying
yeah.
attention.
yeah, definitely not fun.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And this next one is one that I think everybody is guilty of,
Yeah, it's
and that everyone I think can agree is frustrating to deal with, and that's just food and drink around.
it's kind of contrarian to what we're all about because we're all about playing Magic and drinking beers, but we're talking about in the like either the gross or irresponsible way.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's kind of like the rules of eating in my car. It's very similar to my rules when playing Magic, right? I want you to make sure that you have a sealed container as much as possible. And if you have an open container, it is away from the important items.
Yeah.
Right? And then no greasy, sticky, dusty food, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't, anything that can make a mess, that can leave a fingerprint. If you ever touch my cards and there's a mark,
kill you.
like that's
Yeah, it's just fucked up to have your greasy, nasty hands on other people's stuff. And so just like, this is a super easy thing to help because it's just like either put your food or your drink on another table or set it on the ground or eat and then play.
Yeah.
Or just like take a little break.
Yeah, sometimes we've done it before as well, where it's just like, hey, we are all hungry. Let's just go grab a bite to eat or go make food real quick. Eat. That is an entire different action. Once that is done, we go back to playing. Or the extra table that we had. Like that one was a super useful thing because it was when we started to actually pay decent amount for some of these cards. It's
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
Anytime we paid over like $3, it was like,
Yo, this is my baby.
we're sleeving this up. Like, we're protecting it.
Penny sleeves.
Yeah, it's just like any way to protect it. And it's just like, yo, food and drink is on a separate table. Like, have that aside. That's fine.
Yeah, and so just like use coasters. It's obviously it's impossible to say never eat or drink and never spill anything or make mistakes, and that shit happens. But it's just like try to minimize. You don't want to spill a drink all over somebody's brand new deck.
Yeah.
Like that makes everybody feel bad.
Yeah, Garion has like a frustration when it comes to like drinks in general, which is the ring mark.
Yeah.
On play mats.
Yep.
Like, there's one of the reasons why we joke around about coasters. I mean, obviously coasters are great, use them, but the ring mark that he, I don't remember if it was one of his playmats or if it's the one that he usually uses, but there was a ring mark and he was just
I think it was on his Tyrion Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he was pissed. He was trying to figure out who the fuck put a drink down on his playmat. Like, obviously that's super just rude in general. Like, that's some fucked up shit. Don't do that.
You got to keep him pristine.
Yeah.
I remember Sean and I spilled beer all over his Gideon playmat. And we're like, whatever.
It's Chad. Yeah. All right. So we talked a bit about just some pet peeves and frustrations. Let's take a quick break here and dive back into these brewskis.
So I had the Isolation Ale from Odell Brewing Company, and this was the super sweet one, and it's still super sweet. It's got that malty caramel goodness. I'm not getting that hop finish that I was promised, but it's still very solid. It hasn't really developed a lot, but I'm okay with that.
Don't worry. Mine is more than making up for that. We've got the
the extra hoppy
IPA from Ghostfish Brewing Company. And it is an IPA. It's definitely like that hop focus. It's kind of weird as a Northwest IPA. It's not as like really kicky in the teeth as some of theirs. It's way more approachable than a lot of the other IPAs.
Yeah, it
from
is
Northwest.
very malty compared to other IPAs.
Yeah, it's good, but it's not impeccable. You know, like there's some insane IPAs that we've had on the show. I guess a lot of those have been more in the juicy hazy side of things, more fruity and floral. And this one is just like a malty IPA.
Yeah, it's got some of those fruity notes, but it's not as many as like you said, a hazy or a juicy. But I think it's just a pretty solid IPA.
Yeah. Beer of the show?
Beer of the show? Oh, that's hard to say. I really like this ale, but I also really like that IPA.
I do enjoy the IPA. I think it's fine. But I think that the Isolation is just better.
It is just a very, very good ale.
Like, I think I could have 1, 2 maybe of the Kickstep, but like I could have a 6-pack
of the
6-pack,
Isolation. Easy.
Like, it's so drinkable, so smooth, and
it's sweet, but not that
not
too
cloyingly
sweet.
sweet. Yeah, it's like sweet, malty goodness out of the beer.
It's nowhere near dessert beer.
No.
In a good way.
Yeah, definitely. Because like there's definitely some like stouts that are, like chocolate cake in a can basically, right? And it's just like, whew, man, that's really fucking good. But I can have one
500 calories.
Oh yeah, let's not do a calorie count on beers. That would, oofa doofa.
Yep, Isolation Ale, beer of the show.
I mean, got 2 of 2 votes, 100%. Some of the beers of the show, it's unanimous. Like 2 of 3, like usually that's like you and Garion agreeing though. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get back into it a bit. This latter half is going to be about just how you can improve as a player outside of the game, right?
Yeah, like, just being a more courteous player.
Yeah. So with that, one of the things that Cory was really kind of emphasizing when we were bringing this episode up as an idea in general was the time savers, right? They're really small things that you can do that will really help the flow of the game. First one there is cracking lands and fetches when your turn is done, when it's somebody else's turn. And that is to say that if you, let's say it's turn 1, just to make it like the most drawn out it can be. Turn 1, you play Evolving Wilds, and then you crack it to go get a forest. You can do that on someone else's turn. But because it's still your turn, no one else can take an action.
Yeah.
So just passing the turn, doing it, letting them know, I'm going to get this basic land, I'm going to play. Fetch land, say you're going to get a duel, fine. Crack it, go get a taiga. Yeah, it's like here spend $60.
Casually.
Yeah. Spend $60 on a fetch, go get a $400 duel.
Yeah, I think the idea is just like, if you can do things on other people's turns that don't have an impact or as much of an impact, then just do it. Say like, I'm going to just do this I'm going to get these lands, or I'm going to search for this card, or do whatever.
Yeah, and the shortcut that we
Then
usually use is
pass
like
the turn.
and the person before you is just like, it's like on your end step, I'm cracking this, right?
Yeah.
So that way they're finishing up their cleanup and the rest of their turn, and then you'll start yours with your untapped stuff. So that's something that's very small, but it really adds up over the course of a game. If you've got a lot of
especially if everybody's doing it, we just all have faster, smoother turns.
Yeah, because let's be honest, in a Commander game especially, looking through the rest of your deck, there's a lot. Shuffling takes the most amount of time, right?
So much shuffling.
So if you're looking for a specific card with a tutor, same idea. If you can do it at instant speed, then like obviously it's strategically better to do it as late as possible.
Yeah.
But like doing it in a way that is courteous to the rest of the play group is huge. Everyone's going to appreciate for it.
Yeah. So this next one we have is deciding your plays on other people's turns.
So this is more directed at sorcery speed plays.
Yes.
But at the same time, instant speed plays, are a little bit more reactive, but you can still plan things out.
Yeah, and so just holding up mana for stuff to do on other people's turns, that's completely different. We're just talking about looking at what you have in hand. It's like, okay, on my next turn, I'm going to try and do this, or I can play these cards, or I can do this, or I can't even do that. Or it's like, oh, I can cast my commander. And just having options in mind rather than doing that when it gets to your turn. It's like, oh, I'm just going to look through my hand for the first time since
my last turn.
Yeah, since my last turn. And then obviously, as soon as you draw, that changes everything, or it can change everything. Yeah. It's like, oh, I got my land drop. I can do this now.
Yeah.
But
again, like if it's a land drop, like if you're missing a land, like you can still have that plan in mind.
Yeah.
Like if I get a land, this is what I'm going to do.
Just having that plan saves everybody time. It's like, oh, I drew this. I can't play it. I'm going to do these other two things depending on what everybody else has done by the time it's got around. It's like, he's got an enchantment out. I can now blow that enchantment up if I want. Before I couldn't because I didn't have a target. But now I can do that and then do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of like programming things that like come to mind that, there's a lot of if then.
Yeah.
And so like, that's just the way that I think about it. It's just, if he does this, then I'll do this. If he does this, then I'll do something else.
Exactly.
And so.
And then if I draw something else, it'll be completely different.
Right. But you still have like plans in place in case something.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, just having a plan in place.
Even if it's literally just one and drawing, changes everything, you still have that plan. That's an idea that you've had that you can do on your next turn if that's not what you do.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been trying to do a lot better, especially with opening hands. I'm like, okay, I've got a turn 1, a turn 2. I don't have a turn 3, but maybe I can draw something. But I've got a turn 4, my commander, and then just like planning a couple turns ahead just to have sequential plays.
I do that when I'm deck building.
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah, looking at your curve.
Like, yeah, exactly. When I'm looking at curve, and then when I'm looking at my commander, and like, what is the best play I can do? Okay,
turn 1.
If I do that, yeah, it's like turn 1 this, turn 2 this, and like trying to build my deck around that and continue to have plays in mind for what my deck wants to do, right? And like building a deck that is more consistent and has more like repetitive effects is super helpful for that because you have a general idea of what each of your turns can be maximized for. And that's really, really convenient for everyone at the table. And it saves so much time, like not in the moment when you make that decision, but every single like second or minute that you save adds up so fast if you didn't.
Yeah, and I think if you just think back to when we first got into Commander and we had like 2-3 hour games, it's like, this is miserable for everyone. I hate playing Commander.
Yeah, Commander was like, especially when it turned into arch enemy for either you or me, when we had like decks that actually started to pop off.
They were slightly tuned precons.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just like I happened to roll a good setup and you didn't have removal.
Your Soul Ring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like when you are able to start cooking off and everyone's just like, well, you're taking forever on your turn, even though you're actively doing something.
Yeah, you're doing all the things and I have nothing to do.
And so
like, hold it against
exactly. Their turn, land, pass. And just like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. But then you're like, oh, well, I have so many options now. I'm just going to sit here and just weigh everything and then decide. It's like,
having options is always good, but try and figure out different things on other people's turns. It saves everybody time.
All right. I'm going to actually jump past that next section and just go straight into the before and after game discussion. Before games, this is one that we've talked about fairly recently.
Yeah.
It's just discussing the power level of your deck. Again, we're talking about a lot of this is going to be multiplayer, right? Don't show up to a shop with a CEDH deck, something that you're trying to win on turn 2, 3, 4, and assume that that's going to be fair for the rest of the table.
Yeah, we always talk about communicating, and this is just one part of it. It's just if everyone sits down and it's like, yo, everyone play your CEH decks, then that's totally good, totally okay. But if everyone plays like, I'm going to play a CDH deck and you're going to play a jank cephalid tribal deck, it's like that is nowhere near fair, and it's probably not going to be fun for anybody except the CDH player.
Yeah, there's just almost like taboo. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying you're never allowed to play your C80 deck.
Yeah, there's a time and a place.
Yeah. And I guess in general, we can just mash these two categories together. But I'm talking about just like communication in general, right? Actually vocalizing something is way, way better than just making assumptions. Always try and be as open and honest as you can be. Obviously, there's some like trickery and deception in the game, right? But don't just lie to people just to eke out an advantage before or after the game, right? Like you don't want to be like, oh man, this deck is just not very good, and just like maybe you had a bad roll on your setup, right? Like sometimes you get unlucky, but don't be like, oh yeah, this deck's not very powerful. You know, I want to play it again with people's bad decks, and then just absolutely steamroll people.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Like it's kind of no shit, don't be a shitty person. It's like it's small things that are gonna piss people off the most. This next one on here, I really, really like. Ask for people's names.
Yeah, it's kind of sounds weird, especially when there's a lot of names, but it's kind of impersonal to be like, hey, I'm gonna attack you. It's like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Drew. I'm gonna attack Drew over there. It's just, I think
make it more personal.
Yeah, I think it's
fucking
it's
on you.
Drew, you fucker. I think a little goes a long way, and I mean, this is how you make friends. This is how you might find your next play group,
or just an additional one.
Yeah, just you need another guy for drafting. It's like, oh, that Drew guy, he was pretty cool when we played EDH. Let's ask him.
Yeah, and with that, I really like this one because I feel like a lot of people have started to get like notepads or like easy tablets and stuff like that for writing, and writing someone's name down to help you remember and to help communicate with them is something that I've been doing more recently when I've been playing with people, and it's been a lot better of an experience. Like I can tell that people are more in tune with how the game is going if you're saying people's names back and forth.
Yeah.
Like people mimic your behavior a lot. So if you're super impersonal and just like, yeah, I'm gonna attack that guy over there playing the red deck.
Yep.
It's
That's
like
me.
It was red sleeves. Red sleeves, not red deck.
Okay. We're cool.
Yeah, red deck wins, mono white. But yeah, it's just a small thing. But again, like people feel validated when you are recognizing them for who they are. Nicknames are fine, but they only go so far. If you're just trying to cover it up, don't be impersonal. I'm not saying that you need to go be buddy with everyone, but it's a small amount of respect that you give them.
Yeah.
And to ignore their name and to like try and just give them a nickname it's not cool. Like,
yeah, we're all here because we love playing Magic. We just want to play some Magic, so might as well learn everybody's name and make new friends. Like, I don't think anybody would be like, no, I don't like friends. I don't want to make friends.
Yeah, I am here only to play these cards and read them out loud, and then just I'm gonna ignore the rest of you.
Oh, I'm not even here to read cards aloud. I'm just gonna throw them on the table.
Yeah. So next one we have on here in communication is asking to read cards instead of just grabbing them.
Yeah, so this is just more of a like the most courteous thing you can do. Instead of if somebody plays a card, you don't just grab it out of their hands or swipe it off their side of the table. Just be like, hey, can I read that card?
Yeah, I've caught myself a couple times at pre-release where I'm like starting to reach for it. And then I just like try and like turn it into a smooth gesture. I'm just like, do you mind if I read that? It's like, hey, that's I'm pointing at the card. Can
you switch that over here?
Yeah, can you flip that a 180 so I can read it? But it's like, I think players are taken aback a bit at first, but then again, people will mimic your behavior. And I think it in general is going to make for better games overall, because people are going to know what's going on, and if they keep on, asking to read cards, then they're internalizing it a lot better than just like, oh, I played a card. And you know that, like, if it's a card that has more than one line of text, they're going to ask, like, wait, what was that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot going. And I think that's how, just one way to become a better Magic player is just literally just read every card that somebody plays.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then you'll eventually be like, okay, Soul Ring, yeah, I know what that does. Or Cyclonic Rift, okay, yeah, I lose. But there's a lot of weird cards that people play.
I like how you've internalized Cyclonic Rift. Okay, I lose.
That's usually what that means. But it's just reading everything just helps everybody. And especially if I play a weird card and people are like, what? Then I'll read that one aloud and then let other people see. But if I just play if I play a Soul Ring and people are like, or okay, then obviously I don't need to explain that card because everybody knows it. But
yeah, this is kind of one of the, it's one of the things that I like to say that I think a lot of people don't get, and that's just read the room, right? Like playing a card and seeing someone that has a puzzled look, that's not a good sign, right? Like help them. You're playing a card that maybe it's a little more obscure, maybe it's a little more expensive. They not, able to, it's not something they come across often.
Yeah, it's not in their wheelhouse or something they've never seen before.
Try and be helpful. Explain it. Like encourage them to learn new things because it's going to just help everyone.
Yeah, especially like pre-release when everyone's playing with new cards. Not everyone has time to read every single spoiler and look at every single card. So I just like to read the cards aloud and then read all of their cards as well because I don't know everything. So I think it's helpful for everybody.
Yeah, I like to almost play like a guessing game. Like someone will read the name of a card because the name of a card doesn't mean shit.
Oh no, it's just like Magic. Everything's weird.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, is that the one that does such and such? And it'll like prompt them to read it and to show me.
Yeah,
and like that's usually where it's like, oh, okay, thank you.
It's like, oh no, I was thinking something completely different.
Yeah, and so it also allows you like the opportunity to interact more with your opponent as well, especially if they're like. At pre-release especially where they do like, oh no, it's this one, and then they show you, and then like rather than just like grabbing the card, they're offering it to you to grab and to read.
It's like, oh shit, that's sweet. Yeah, so this next one we got is just asking if people have responses. And this might be counterintuitive because you don't want people to respond to your stuff, but it's just common courtesy. We're all here playing the game, we're following the rules. You don't want to try and cheat past steps.
Yeah, this is heavy into like stack and priority. Mm-hmm. And so the people in the game do get priority if you...
Whether you want them to or not.
Right. So like anytime you play something, you will then have first priority on it, right? That doesn't just let it resolve, right? Yeah. So the biggest example that we have is equipping Boots or Greaves, right? So you pay the mana cost, even if it's 0, to equip it. People might have a response, right? And usually in our play group, we're pretty good about just any responses, and that's all you have to say.
Yeah, if you just expect your thing to die, it'll be so much cooler about it. Just like, anybody got anything to do with this? No? Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a good thing,
Yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna fuck some shit up.
You're gonna lose.
Yeah. But it's again, super small courtesy, and it allows people to, like, obviously it allows people to react better, but it's so much better than like you equipping it and then just like attacking, like, whoa, I never got a chance to if you passed their priority and just ignored them, you're also skipping into the next phase, which again, like, have some courtesy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, you have to give everybody a chance to do stuff, and it might hurt you. Yeah. And people,
it is my right.
I will not lose. But I think, yes, it's going to backfire on you sometimes, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it also makes you a better player because if you are providing that opportunity, people are going to reciprocate often, and it allows you to find when the opportunities are actually available for you if people aren't doing that, right? It makes you pay attention to what people are doing.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, I know you got 2 blue mana up. I'm going to play this. Is it good? Is it cool? Does it resolve? It's like, yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. This next one, I really, really enjoy, especially when playing with a new play group or like new players, like people just new to the game. So vocalizing your plays and mana usage. This is one that I am a huge proponent of as a Storm player because we always have so much random
little mana counts.
Yeah. We have so much mana floating that's coming in and out of our mana pool. And so vocalizing that to help people understand what we're doing, like my Kaikar Storm deck is like one of the best examples we can use with that, because it's generating a bunch of tokens that I am then sacrificing for mana. And so it's like, wait, how have you cast so many spells? It's like, well, I've played this card, this spirit has been generated, I have sacrificed the spirit to get more mana so that I can play a different spell. I'm also drawing cards. And so like every single time it's just, okay, crack a spirit, play this, draw a card. Just saying those three things, even though it is repetitive, it lets people know, okay, you've played the card, you made a new spirit, drawn the card because that's the resolution of the effect. And at that entire time, that's 4 different things that happen.
Yeah.
Right? I'm putting mana in my mana pool, I'm emptying mana out of my mana pool, I'm drawing cards after playing cards. And all of that together will generate a new spirit. And I cycle that. So letting people know, okay, I've got X mana floating. You know, Garion has another good example with his Muldrotha deck, where he likes to tap all of his mana, sacrifice everything, get it all back with World Shaper, and then he's got more mana to use.
Yeah.
So like effectively doubling his mana for that play. And it's like something like that has, say he's, 9 or 10 mana. That's 20 mana
of different colors.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you
And so
already use?
every time you play a spell when you have that much mana floating, again, it's like, okay, I'm paying black, 4 colorless, so I'll choose, some green and some blue, and, that's good. Playing Muldrotha, so that's black, blue, green, and 3 generic. I choose these ones. Just vocalizing that, and if you can, represent that. I like to just
use all your dice.
Yeah, exactly. I like to have the Pokemon energy cards to represent it, just because then I have a physical place to have that representation for people, as well as a die that is connected to that. So people see the colors represented with the mana that I've got in my mana pool, and I think it's just a nice physical representation to help people along.
Yeah, I think this is really important, especially in combo decks where you're just like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this and then this and then this. I'm going to do this and then this responds to that. I'm going to do that. Just like, oh, hold up. Just
one
go
at
through
a
the
time.
steps, explain what you're doing. And then, like we said in the previous step, just like let people respond. You don't just get to, you might think it's just a single player game, but everyone has a chance to do stuff.
Yeah, unless literally every single action you're doing is in response to the other thing you're doing, your shit just doesn't get a resolve for free.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just this idea that just like we keep saying, communication. Just you don't need to explain every little thing you're doing, but if it's very impactful and changing the board state constantly, then you should do that.
Yeah, or if it's like a sequence of things that are interconnected.
Yeah, the sequence is important. Yeah.
Right? Like playing a spell, you don't have to like, especially, like Kodama's Reach or something like that. Like most people familiar with the game, most people familiar with EDH, they're going to understand, okay, you're ramping.
Yeah.
Like that's something that they understand. But if I'm playing like Howling Mine into something that punishes people for having extra cards in their hand, then it's like that's 2 things that are connected and matter to them. Whereas just like having one or the other may not individually matter that much, but together it represents a significant change in how the game interactions play out.
Yeah, and I think this is especially important when playing super impactful permanents. Like, I'm just going to play Shieldred and then just not say anything. Or like, I'm going to play this Oblivion Stone or Nevinrel's Disc and then just not explain anything or not mention it. Just like, I'm going to tap some mana and I'm going to play this card.
Yeah, I hate that. That's like the worst one where they don't even say the name of it.
Yeah, I'm just going to play this.
They just like tap mana.
I'm going to play this artifact that you should not look at. Don't worry about it.
Next turn, I blow everything up.
Yeah, so...
Oh, you didn't see that coming? Oh, I'm a better player. No, you just
didn't say anything.
Yeah. The last one we've got on here is Cory's favorite. We kind of mentioned it before, but don't hold grudges.
Yeah, it's just don't be petty. Like, it's just a game. We're all here to have fun. And obviously, when you're playing tournaments and professionally, you want to take it as serious as possible. But if you're just at just your local game stores, we're just playing.
Yeah, if you're at Commander
cards.
Night,
we're just slinging spells.
Like Commander Night was never designed to be like this hyper competitive place. It was like, hey, come have a safe place to play cards,
to nerd out.
Yeah, like
just come show off your cool
like sometimes
shit.
there's like prizes and stuff, but like don't be so focused on that you lose sight of the important things, which is to have fun and enjoy playing a game that everyone else is there for.
And I get that sometimes there are people you don't like and you don't like how they play, maybe because they're an asshole or something like that. but holding a grudge against them doesn't solve anything. I think communicating will go a lot further than just like targeting them every game or something.
Yeah.
Or countering their meta, something like that.
So we had a player in our play group that, for whatever reason, I honestly could not tell you, would literally for like a month straight always target me. And I could not figure out what was going on, whether they had some grudge or frustration against me, but it made it so that I did not want to play with them whatsoever. And so I didn't. Anytime they were over, it was just like, like probably just going to sit this one out or just go home. Just like, it's not worth me being frustrated at just the blatant
pettiness.
Yeah. Whatever.
It doesn't solve any problems.
Yeah. It just makes it unfun. And then I'm leaving and everyone's just like, well, what the fuck? Why are you leaving? Like, it makes it less fun. Like, it makes the game less interesting.
Yeah.
And so it starts to impact everyone else. So don't hold grudges. Don't be petty. Communicate.
Yeah, just be cool with everyone.
All right, so we've gone over a lot of our personal pet peeves, but I think that most of them are pretty well relatable.
Yeah.
Like, maybe like our like personal, like, the way that
I don't like how Cory taps his stuff.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's definitely like one of those things where it's just like, I just want to, so that if I'm looking across the table, if I'm like the furthest person away from you, I want to be able to see what's going on. Like, I don't want you to try and like be shifty or like hide information that should just be public information. Like, the joke is just be cool, but like, seriously,
it's just a game. It's okay if you lose. Like, you don't need to take it as seriously as you think it might be. It's just, if your commander's going to get blown up, it's going to get blown up. Just accept it. Just be like, yeah, this is what I got. I've got no blocks. Just, it's whatever.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that you guys are checking us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. What's the other one?
Hit up our Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. On Instagram, we've got Drew's Brews. We should have all that stuff back up and running as we did in the past. Sorry about the kind of odd delay of getting all of the
we had to build up our stockpile.
It's not even that. The stockpile was there. I didn't have time to do it. So I am making more time to actually do that, and I'm trying to get Cory and Garion to do their own side of it. But again, everyone has so much.
Yeah, we're all really, really busy.
So much stuff on their plate. It's just hard. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully, we've got some stuff that's relatable, and hopefully we've presented some solutions and some ideas to improve. Like, we've admitted that we do some of the things that are on our list, and that we are working to improve. We're all human. We all make mistakes, but we can always get better.
Yeah, it's easy to be mad, and it's okay to be mad. Just don't take it out on anybody, and just like Drew said, we're always trying to be better players and better people. Just improving our meta.
Yeah.
Wherever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. Like your meta is wherever you're playing. So.
My work meta.
Yeah, that needs to change. Improve that situation.
It needs to be more competitive.
So as we like to say on this podcast,
have fun,
but be cool.